You mentioned Jessica Meany to me, so it sounds like she's not going to come to our subcommittee.
Yeah, Jessica doesn't have enough organizational staff to present. So whenever she presents, it's recommended that we join her presentation. And she just had one. I sent it out and I saw that Rob went, I went to it. And maybe you want to talk more about it. I was also at the dentist one. But I was listening to it.
I do have my AI notes and we'll send that out, but I think she also is posting it on her website, but it was very good. It was about, she had a guest speaker talking about sidewalk repair and the critical components of that for pedestrians and cyclists and such. So it was good. It was a very informative hour and a half.
And that's on the capital infrastructure plan.
Yes.
So you're saying in terms of the sidewalk, they were talking about how all the different agencies, like coordinate in that respect.
It was a presentation by a PhD student whose dissertation is around sidewalk repair and her surveys around cities across the country and LA. And she had some recommendations and thoughts. So it clearly, sidewalk repair is sort of an investing in place kind of concept. And so it fit in, you got a good sense of the investing in place campaign or theories around focusing a little bit on sidewalks. It pulled in other components. So we're taking a look at once we get you the link.
Thanks. And then, so in terms of follow-up items, as we mentioned, there's this council file, which if we get to quorum tonight, which it's now questionable, we will be able to pass that. And that's the council file. It's 2014-69 S1 that Curtis had worked on and that Nithya proposed, or Nithya made the motion, and then Hugo seconded. And I think part of Hugo's support might have been the research that my neighborhood council did regarding a particular closure of a sidewalk that just happened to be the main transit way between a middle school and a metro station. So in other words, the metro station is literally right there on one side, and the middle school is on the other. And there's an intersection in between, and there's no crosswalk, and so people would have to, in order to not use that sidewalk, they would have to go 500 feet away from the metro station, and then 500 feet back, and then another 500 feet. So 3 times as far to get to the metro station with the sidewalk closed as when it's not closed. And the consequence was that that all the students were, who had to go to that metro station were walking in traffic, and that went on for 2 months. For 2 weeks, and we filed a service request, and the service request went nowhere. And finally, it was the council district intervening that got the situation sorted out. But it definitely shows that there's a need for this council file and for our letter of support that the motion would include. Then also there was a update in our meeting on the wayfinding, and apparently there was a delay that resulted in a lot of the work, some of the work having to be redone. So LA has to work with Caltrans and Bureau of Engineering to revalidate the right-of-way certification. The bid and award process will take at least 6 months. Once they start, construction will take at least a year. And Active Transportation has been, in the meantime, incorporating bike wayfinding signage into its projects. Some examples include Varial Avenue, Lincoln Park Avenue, 7th Street in K-Town, and the upcoming 43rd Street bike lane in Leimert Park. And then regarding the the Zikla zippers, which are the protected, the hardened bike lanes and down, that they're doing a pilot on downtown. They're not going to do any formal engagement. And therefore, they would encourage this committee to give user feedback if any of us have had a chance to ride out there.
Can you repeat where that is?
Where the
Zipper.
the zippers are, it's downtown, around like 7th and Figueroa. And what they are is they're like just rubber dividers that go between the bollards, and they look like like little strips if you've seen them. But if you haven't any feedback, please let us know. We can pass that on to LADOT, since they're not doing any formal engagement. And then the next item is so on the Expo Bikeway, Jonathan Weiss said this council deputy told him it would be starting up we'll be starting it next year. So he asked what was the holdup, and Elliot thinks maybe it's been a bit delayed with the design, and that they had to do some right-of-way acquisition, and it goes Northvale, turns into Motor, then from Motor they'll go back onto the Expo Bikeway. So he thinks that that segment just after Motor is where they had to do some extra work, but he's going to get clarification. And then in terms of the bike parking, that depended on this new code, and the implementation of the new code depends on the community plan updates. And they're going to look into what LADOT's role is in the community plan updates. And our next subcommittee meeting is going to be January 2025. So they're going to give us the clarification then. And that's all I have.
Jennifer, anything to add to Philip's
No,
comprehensive report?
I guess we'll take off Norville off our
North
agenda.
Vale? No, not until it's done.
Really?
Yeah.
Because they're not gonna do anything till 2026, right?
No, this said, sorry, just a second. It said, well, they said they were going to give us an update in January 2025, but he
Okay,
said the
all right.
actual, they said they would, in other words, they would be starting, let's see, okay, so let me read it again, the right-of-way acquisition was delayed, and then
I think we can just keep it on the agenda. I would rather it be on the agenda until it's completed,
All right,
just as a placeholder reminder that this is not going away. It's on our agenda. We expect reports. If we take it off, then it could.
we'll forget.
Yeah.
But Jonathan could remind us too, but.
Well, yeah. Great.
thank you.
Thank you. We do not 2, 4, 6, 8, 9. Kevin, how come you can't be an alternate?
Do we have anybody on the phone who could be,
Why
No.
can't you be an alternate?
He's in this different city.
Do you eat or?
If we could self-nominate people, that would be incredible.
Or worship or one of
there's
those?
nobody on the
We
phone.
have to have.
Curtis almost made it.
We
That's all.
have-
There's 252-559 or something.
My understanding is you have to have quorum in person, and then people who are zooming in remote can participate if there's physical quorum here.
But I thought, for example, with Glenn,
Abraham is not appointed yet.
okay, so there's nobody on the Zoom that could be
No,
counted towards quorum.
No.
Is that
But even I could, for even under the AB 2449 exception, I could only join once you achieve a
Oh,
person
okay.
quorum.
Right.
okay? No, I didn't know that.
yeah, the
Which is
physical.
why I've sort of been on standby on the subcommittee meetings as well as this committee, because we're only allowed to do it twice per calendar year. So make it count, right?
But you're saying that it doesn't work for quorum, it only works for voting.
Yes.
Right.
Okay, no, I was completely off base. I thought it was the other way around.
Yeah, neighbor council's the opposite.
Well, that's-
SB 411 can't have quorum
Unless you,
if people are, no, you can't have quorum if people are joining, if
Well-
board members are joining.
well, the board members can't join virtually if you have quorum.
Right.
But if you have like, let's say our quorum is,
In any case,
yes, go ahead.
yeah,
Sorry.
we don't have quorum today. We can't consider it. So, yeah, we all have unique rules and regulations. Wouldn't it be nice if it were different?
And by the way, I looked up, someone emailed me about the legislature and the governor, and so I looked up that Pacheco bill. And it did die in,
Oh.
in committee, got out of, I think. Anyway, it died in committee. And so there we are. There'll be a new legislative session starting in December, January, so maybe we can get
Michael,
Michael, and just get it reintroduced.
yeah,
It would benefit all of us advisory entities throughout the entire state of California.
So does the PED have the same issues that we do with pedestrian advisory?
They're having quorum issues as well.
yeah, that's why they're not meeting. I went to the last meeting, I think, where they had nobody from the committee there, they just had the heads. And they had everybody presenting, and they were on Zoom, but, they didn't have quorum, and they didn't have people in person, and their group, I believe, is much wide, well, we're pretty wide, though. We're county, we're citywide.
Right.
I'm sure.
As is there.
Yeah, they're the same, I'm
Yeah,
sure they're the
yeah.
same, but they're bigger, they used to be a huge group, and they're just gone. That's just awful.
Struggling.
Come on, let's.
Eli is not here, so we don't have a Bike LA update. Michael is going to call in or Zoom
8
in
o'clock.
between.
Maybe we could combine, have a joint committee.
They don't show up. It's not even better. It's not better than.
And we, before we move on, can just on the council file,
Yes.
so I just looked it up. It was approved by city council.
Oh, it did.
Today,
The item 20,
AB?
item 8. Yeah, council file
2014-69.
Oh, good.
oh, it passed, okay, because the recording, kind of scanned the recording, and I was in the meeting, but I couldn't stay for the whole thing, and so it did pass.
I just looked up council, it shows a vote of intent.
So do we
Okay.
still want to do a letter of support?
That was our motion.
We can't.
Yes,
We need to.
Well,
I need to look at the recommendations from transportation committee, but I think it's a report back, so I think it's still timely. 'Cause-
yes, it was a report back.
Yeah, so, they might report back before we meet again, but we should be prepared to.
Yeah, I agree with you, we should still do our letter of support.
but we don't have quorum.
No, but when we have
Correct.
quorum, we can do a letter of
Can
support.
we do individual? We can do individual.
Correct.
So we could write individually now.
Yeah,
Correct.
and my neighborhood council already submitted a community impact statement.
Pardon?
My neighborhood council submitted a community impact statement,
Already
yes.
with this 20. Okay,
Yeah, you can find it in the
I'll write them a letter.
Northwestwood did also.
Good. Okay. All right. Well, let's do. Until Michael shows up, we'll continue onward.
I have one Streets for All thing that I just saw today.
Okay.
He sent, Streets for All sent a letter to the mayor, reminding them that major HLA applies to metro projects as well. And this Vermont bus lane
Vermont Transit
project,
Corridor project.
invokes HLA, even if they don't repave the street in major improvements that affect more than 1/8 of a mile. And so they should be doing everything that bicycle plan calls for.
That's my understanding too. Karen, do you have any? We'll go around this way in terms of reports from the field. Anything from where you live or your mayoral appointee status that you want to share?
Well, I was gonna share that the coffee nouring season starts this weekend.
Do you want to share what that is?
Coffee nouring is something that was started by a woman who lives in the Washington DC area, but it's become an international thing. This is like the 14th year, for a period of 7 weeks, in the fall when the days are getting shorter and people might be biking less. The idea is to encourage people to keep getting out there. So over the course of 7 weeks, go by bicycle at least 2 miles round trip to visit different coffee shops and go
And
get some
coffee nouring is a spin-off on,
randonneuring. So this woman who started it is a randonneur, and so
and randonneur is,
randonneuring is a sport where it's not like racing, but people take on challenges to bike 100K or 200K or
it's almost a little bit of
1,200
bike packing too,
kilometers.
isn't it?
pardon me?
Isn't it a little bit of bike packing too?
You carry what you need. You have to be self-sufficient.
Yeah.
When you do one of those long treks.
Yeah.
Anyway, coffee nouring is just a way to have a little fun and encourage people to get out on their bikes. And then you get to share with their whatever.
No idea where she was last night, and believe me, when I told you, not one of them wants to be here.
Anyway, there's a website called boxes.com.
And what about our crazy streaming lady right morning?
Hey, calling user, can you mute yourself?
She said, our eyewitness is show up.
Taylor? I'm trying.
I'm trying to think, we're still working on Willoughby, still trying to figure out what's going on with Willoughby, which is such a big east-west route through West Hollywood. There's been a lot of talk about Fountain. Bike Talk did an interview with John Erickson, who's the mayor of West Hollywood, and he's in a campaign for city council again in November, and that will air in early October. And it's a really good interview. He was very upfront about being very supportive of bicycle infrastructure. I just did an interview with Laura Friedman today, who's running for Congress in 30th district, and she's been labeled the bike lane lady by our bike hater. And I asked her if that was a good thing or a bad thing, and she said it's a good thing. And she spent about 7 minutes talking about how important bike infrastructure is in a city like Glendale, which is where her running mate is from. So we're trying to do a whole thing on politicians as we get nearer to the election. I'm going to interview the mayor of Ann Arbor, Michigan, which has done a lot for putting in protected bike lanes, which is, I think, really wonderful because it's such a great town and a great college town. And that's it.
Okay, thank you. Ready?
The only thing I have to share, I saw this note from the Bikeways and Engineering Committee, the subcommittee, about the community plan update being a potential factor for helping out with getting better infrastructure to bikes. I'm involved with a small group of in my neighborhood that are participating in the process for the west side. I brought up that specific question, and at least the planning department don't seem to even know or care what's going on with the infrastructure around it. So I'm curious how, if anybody's heard something else, because that's what I've heard, is they don't even know or care about it.
Yeah, I mean, I think part of it is just asserting that bike parking and other kind of infrastructures are important in the community plan. But yeah, planning may or may not give a darn.
I'm calling out that it is an opportunity though to sort of see where we can fill those gaps, because right now it does seem like a gap.
And lack of attention.
Yeah.
Philip?
Yes, so in the little vignette that Karen just did, she mentioned HLA and Vermont Transit Corridor. So at the same subcommittee meeting last month, we had a guest from LA Metro who was overseeing that project for them, and we did ask her about the bike lanes on that are in the 2035 mobility plan. I think they're class 2 bike lanes on Vermont, and she was saying that Measure Measure M, where the funding is coming from, is a state measure. And it sounded like she was saying they didn't have to comply with HLA, and the issue of the eighth of a mile came up. And she was not, she didn't back down or anything like that. She was still saying that it was something that they would have to address. And apparently was it the city attorney? Okay, so in other words, the county and the city attorneys have to, or maybe it's the state, have to sort out, how the two measures,
HLA.
HLA and Measure M interface.
I mean, we know it has been hypothesized that HLA is being put through the meat grinder by our city attorney, and that's why things are just so slow. So it's just caught up in legalese, manhandling. Measure M could add a whole nother level of, okay, we're going to really stick it to these bike nuts.
Right, and so the timeframe I heard for the city attorney to come out with their ordinance was October. In other words, there's the thing that they're supposed to do next was scheduled for October. But the other thing that we brought up with Martha was, fortuitously, I had just come out of isolation from COVID, and I was standing on the corner of Vermont and Beverly, and the bus that I was waiting for hit a cyclist. And I asked Martha if she could tell us whether this got reported to LAPD. And she is very, it was like she doesn't want to say. And so, I got an email out to her asking her, as a follow-up to our meeting, because one of the comments in the chat, which I didn't think she was going to, I thought she was just going to say, oh, this is LADOT, it's not us. But she actually responded to the question, and she said that these reports go to one of their operations centers, and they have all the records. And so, as a follow-up, because we had to move on because, we were way behind on the ATP report. And so, in a follow-up question, I asked her, I said, we don't need the actual report. We just want to know whether it got reported or not, because Vermont is part of the high injury network. And so if Metro is not reporting their collisions to the LAPD, then they're not getting into the high injury network.
I can't imagine that they aren't required to file a police report.
That would be the bus.
Stunning.
Well, and I saw the police were there.
Right.
So, but sometimes, they have a special order now that says they only have to do police reports when there's a DUI or a hit and run. And so in some cases, they just tell the drivers, to report online. And so, I just want to know, yes or no, did they file a police report? And so far, she hasn't told me. And
You might be able to check with the police department though, too.
Well, I've tried to get reports from them on,
Not reports, but was there an incident report filed for this event that you witnessed?
I've asked them.
Okay.
Because like I
We
said,
need to move on, but
yes, I was answering your question,
Yeah.
but yes, I have tried to get the information from the police.
I'm excited to report that Mar Vista Elementary School is trying to do their own walk and bike to school day. Small potatoes, one little school but they're making an effort. And Damian Newton, who some of you know from Streets Blog, used to have quite a robust walk and bike to school at Richland Avenue, which is also in the Mar Vista area. But he reports that has died on the vine since he's left the school. So it's good to see that somebody is picking it up in a neighborhood school. But every little bit counts. Jennifer, anything from your neck of the woods?
Keep going in all.
CD1, okay, Lionel?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. For my CD6 update, as I mentioned, the Sacramento Road Bike Path Phase 3 has been completed. From Stillmore, I'm extending towards Sun Valley, on San Fernando Road, which is near the end of the line on the Bob Hope Airport, it's just across station. Number two, the Roscoe, Boulevard, the bus and bike lane. Extends from Sun Valley in District 6 towards the West Valley during peak hours. It means that bicyclists are able to bike on Roscoe Boulevard on, because the bus and bike only lane during peak hours. So which is a good thing because then, which means that motors are not allowed to drive on that lane only, except if they're making a right turn only. Number three, the Sun Valley Area Neighborhood Council held a bike path cleanup on San Fernando Road in 2 phases. So they're volunteer from the Polytechnic High School students who came out to clean debris, trash along the bike path to make it clear for bicyclists and pedestrians. That is it for District 6. For now, thank you very much.
Lionel, do you know if they weigh how much trash they pick up? I know Safe does that just as a measure.
Wait, not to my knowledge.
I don't think it's extra work. Damien has to drive around and weigh each bag of trash and tally it up, but it's interesting to, just in terms of numbers, but Glenn?
The students, yeah. They may want to submit that to Don, the publicize it more, give more people enthusiasm about, or the idea of getting high school students specifically like that's great. I actually was by the Orange Line bike path in the western stretch, kind of in the middle stretch. And it almost seems like the city has given up on the landscaping with regards to weeds, dead plants, whatever. So I think that's a contract that LADOT oversees. Maybe they're more concerned about placing the lighting, which is appropriate, but it's also an eyesore, and I just don't want people to, if we ever have a chance to do another bike project, I don't want people to say, oh, look how horrible this looks, or no landscaping, that's how horrible this.
You know, the expo line is mostly like California natives. Is that what's planted?
There are a lot of natives, but the other issues that are some basic needs. That if you have.
Even some of them that were planted are basically.
Okay. But even so, even if it was 100% native, you still have to have some maintenance. So that the things that come in. Yeah. That's it.
Thank you. CD3.
So I've been giving some thought to what should I focus on right now in terms of advocacy within CD3, and knowing that if there is going to be citywide improvement in bicycle and pedestrian infrastructure in the next, say 3 years of change, that it's likely going to be in areas where there are going to be events
Olympic
happening,
venues.
Olympic events,
Olympic and Paralympic
World Cup
events.
and World Cup events, which is not CD3. So I'm looking at like, okay, what's my best hope for getting some bicycle infrastructure? And the last that I heard anything about, and I don't even know whether anything's going on with that, it's not the city, it's the state, and it's State Highway 27. Does anybody have a contact on
Caltrans.
at Caltrans?
I do.
I know I was trying to look through, scrolling through old
I think I have a
records, because I know we had a presentation, but this was a couple of years ago, and I'm sure they have a different.
I met Caltrans was at Cal Bike, and I met a couple of people there, so I'll
Yeah,
look
if
through
you
my
could
notes.
email me.
We had a presentation by Caltrans on a subcommittee meeting.
Oh, right.
Meetings ago.
Jennifer? Lou?
Yeah.
I think it was
Serena. But I think there are others as well. Any reports from West Hollywood? Come on.
Well, there are proposals that are under study or already mostly approved by the city council for protected bike lanes on two major east-west thoroughfares. That is Mountain Avenue and Santa Monica Boulevard. Santa Monica Boulevard already has for a stretch last two bike lanes. Those seem certain to be upgraded to protected bike lanes. It's the western part of the city that borders Beverly Hills. And that's wide enough, it won't be too difficult. Eastern part of the city is much narrower. Santa Monica Boulevard, so that would involve losing a lot of parking and all steps. So that's under engineering study. Fountain Avenue is a road diet, which would involve losing about 40% of the on-street parking all on the north side of the street in order to fit protected bike lanes, and also the sidewalks are going to be compliant in terms of width. In other respects, mostly width. That's because, as all of you know, Fountain Avenue, right outside this building, is mostly one lane each direction in Los Angeles, going all the way to Hyperion. In West Hollywood, it's two lanes in each direction. This was changed in the mid-cities by the county supervisor, who the highway, because the Hollywood freeway had been blocked. So he says, oh, we can't have that. And so he turned the county part into a highway. That's why it changes. To reverse that and to widen it, they had to narrow the sidewalks, fit in extra lane in each direction, two lanes in each direction, very high speed, a lot of accidents, collisions, crashes, sorry. And to reverse that, to widen the sidewalks again, because the county had narrowed down trees, and strollers and wheelchairs cannot move along the sidewalks. Posts are in the middle. And I've seen several people in wheelchairs go out into Fountain Avenue, out the driveway, along Fountain Avenue, in the travel lane, back onto the sidewalk in order to get around these barriers. So to make it ADA compliant, they got to widen it. In order to do that, they have to take parking and or this travel lane in each direction that was added by the county. Plus, in their opinion, about 50-50 split support for this. However, there is a lot of because but they're much more supported by this group is arguing strongly to cancel the whole project. And so everything depends on the November election. Basically, John Erickson, who Taylor mentioned, the current mayor, is up for re-election. He'll probably be re-elected. Not guaranteed, he's worried, but he'll probably be re-elected. But we have 3-2 majority. One of our supporters is not running. And the current favorite to replace her, unfortunately, at the moment, is this anti-bike lane candidate, which will flip from a 3-2 majority, 3-2 against.
It's Culver City all over.
That's right. They will promptly cancel the entire Fountain Avenue project if that happens. And so there won't be any widening of sidewalks, as they don't want to lose any on-street parking or travel lanes, and certainly no protected bike lanes. So that's all on a knife's edge at the moment. That's where that stands. Santa Monica Boulevard is still being studied. The S asterisk has not hit the fan yet there because they haven't received any details about loss of parking or anything like that. They haven't gone that far for the community to rise up in opposition. You had a question, Taylor?
Wait, was that George Nichols? Is that who the candidate is? Okay.
That's right. So you have to stay tuned for the November election. It could be a repeat of Culver City. We shall see. But the candidate who's slightly behind him is on a slate which honors very strongly. So we're waiting. Could be good. Why not?
And what's his name? Danny Henry, that's what I thought.
If I throw in one more thing.
Sure.
Okay, so we had the August 18th Ciclavia Meet the Hollywoods, and LADOT there did, and that was sort of like the unveiling to some extent of the new Hollywood Boulevard Safety and Mobility Project. And then they also took more public input on phase 2, which is the Hillhurst portion of it, where they had to make some changes to the street before they could do the bicycle improvements. And then, sorry, I just lost my page here. Once the pilot has been done for the zippers downtown, the next thing was to use them also on Hollywood, and that installation is expected this fall.
Okay.
So stay tuned.
The Meet the Hollywoods was a terrific ciclavia, one of the longer ones, I think, and such a incredible variety of experiences as you went east to west. So
Yeah, I went all the way from West Hollywood to
Kevin was actively manning a booth in West Hollywood.
okay.
So
I didn't make it that far.
yeah. Anything else for the good of the order? Seeing none. There were a couple, I know, at the Bikeways and Engineering. We acknowledge Johnny Gaudreau and his brother, who were fatally struck and killed August 29th in biking in LA. There was also another Julio Castellum, 37-year-old from Florence Graham neighborhood of South LA, riding a BMX bike on a sidewalk and was killed by a drunk driver going the opposite direction, cross traffic, and jumped up onto the sidewalk to fatally strike him. So in terms of adjournment and recognition of those who have lost their lives, I know biking in LA has covered a lot of other Southern California, LA County, but this was one that happened in the city of LA. So, 37 years old. Yeah,
I have another one, unfortunately. Also in biking in LA, but I actually had gotten a next door post with more detail, which I thought was. This was on September 19th, about 9 o'clock at night, on Lindley Avenue, just south of Parthenia Street in Northridge. And hit and run, and then a second vehicle hit the down cyclist, also a hit and run. And so I happened to see, probably, I had it up now, where is it? I'll just paraphrase that this person knew person who was killed, and it wasn't reported as far as his name. And I thought it was kind of moving to, if I can, to just quickly read her next door post the following day. Did anyone last night after 9 p.m. possibly see a man on a bike get killed by hit and run driver near Lindley and Parthenia? That was my friend Dan. They didn't stop. He was coming back from the dollar store. He was a father and a son and a good friend. He was on his bike. Please, if anyone saw anything or knows anything, at least he deserves some justice. And just to leave him, just to hit him and leave him on to die is too much. Thanks, Greg. Appreciate it.
You know, we talked about this on Bike Talk the other day with Jim Pocrass, and he said the reason that there's so much that there's an epidemic of hit and runs is because the penalty for hit and run is less than the penalty for DUI. So that a lot of people that cross 3 lanes of traffic and go up on the curb. Now, I'm not saying that the person who hit this gentleman was drunk or anything, but lots of times when a driver is drunk, they hit and run because they know that the penalties are harsher for DUI than they are for hit and run. So one of the things maybe we can do, or any other advocacy organization can do, is fight to make the penalties for hit and run also very serious.
Kevin, from SAFE would really be a good ally in this because he was hit and run.
Damien,
I'm sorry, Damien.
absolutely.
Sorry, Damien Kevin, sorry, Kevin. Damien Kevin, yeah, he would really jump on that.
It's also very difficult to prosecute anybody for hit and run because it isn't just a matter of getting their license plate or anything like that. You have to be able to identify the person
Who was driving.
Yes, you would have to be able, like, pick them out in a lineup if they were the ones who did it, because just getting the license plate or something doesn't mean that they were the ones.
Physical evidence of
Wow.
the crimes.
Yeah. If you're
All right, yeah.
unconscious.
Do we have any heroes that we want to acknowledge?
I would
yeah,
like
that
to
is
acknowledge LaGrange,
Lagrange.
Why?
because they, well, Jay used to be our chair, and they have kept their head up for a long, long time. Not, one of their group, but I really like the fact that they're very lively people, and they're competitive. I think that
And they're trying to do some things around bicycle safety. Yeah.
oh, good.
Yeah.
See,
A little bit,
that.
a little bit.
Because he's a LaGrange guy.
No, a former.
Well, but you know about all this stuff.
Sure.
So I want, so in a way.
So
you're the
here's
hero.
to bike clubs who
Yeah.
not only recreate, but also do some advocacy.
For advocacy.
So I know Major Taylor bicycle clubs
Oh,
have
yeah.
sponsored cycling savvy presentations around riding in bikes, riding in groups. And I think Big Orange has also hosted some cycling savvy bike education. Oftentimes it's because one of their members was killed or seriously injured. But no matter how we get allies and advocates, and we suffer the same perils, we come together in brother and sisterhood to try to fix the wrongs in the world. So,
And Damien too, Damien Kevin,
of course, yeah.
he's another hero. He's amazing. Anyway.
So that's part of why we list our sister organizations so that we can step up and participate in some of theirs. So the Finish the Ride Run, there are 2 that happen, and there's one I think around in February, and then there is the kind of Halloween one, and that's coming up in Santa Clarita. So if you're interested in Finish the Ride, Finish the Run, which is sponsored by SAFE, Streets Are for Everyone. That's a great thing. And even if you don't want to competing, but you want to volunteer, they're a great organization to connect to. So with that, I don't
Can I
see,
just say one more thing?
yeah,
All right, we were talking about Council File 201469 S1.
Mhm.
And I understand that it passed in Transportation Committee
and City Council today.
and City Council. Is that right?
No, today was city council, transportation committee,
Before, okay.
and it would have, you asked me, but it would have had to pass transportation because it's a
Right.
report from transportation.
I thought it did, but I just wanted to clarify because it's a big deal for me and for our whole group. I think we did a really good job on that.
So know that the links on the agenda will take you to the city clerk's file system. So that's the link, so you can kind of
Oh, great.
quickly follow up.
I'll do that.
So with that, is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll make the motion to
Thank
adjourn.
you. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Thank you all. Thanks for coming out. We're so close.
Curtis would have made it.
Or Michael, or Michael.
Listen, the judge told him he had to show up at a meeting.
I'm
So
taking